Hello, and welcome back to the Nourish with Purpose podcast. It's Bailey, and I hope you're having a great Wednesday or whenever you're listening to today's episode. Just a reminder, if you have not yet left a rating and or review on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I would really appreciate if you did that. Maybe even leave a review over on Apple Podcasts or YouTube if that's where you're listening or watching. And I just want to hear what you're getting and gaining from the podcast, as it's something that I love to do and I love to record each episode, but it's also fun just to hear what you're taking away from it. So I also thought that today would be a great episode to talk about sacrificial love, and that's kind of the bulk of today's episode, especially because Mother's Day was this last Sunday. I got to celebrate my first Mother's Day, and I know many of you actually also got to spend time with your family on your first Mother's Day, which is just really special. It was very sweet, and I'm going to, of course, catch you up on everything that's happening in my life before we jump into the bulk of each episode. If you are new here, I'm Bailey. That's my name. I guess you probably know that if you clicked on the episode or heard the intro. But I am an integrative health coach. I really work with women to reduce inflammation, but ultimately feel like they have somebody to talk to and support them in their health journey with very holistic remedies, holistic support, and I love doing that. I've had my business Divine Purpose for the last over 3 years, which is crazy, and now I'm not really transitioning my business at all, but I am now a mom, so I'm kind of wanting to really identify where I can support moms and knowing just what comes with pregnancy and postpartum. I think it's just really a special area to focus on. So kind of adjusting in a sense, but still, of course, just working with women in general. I'm starting work again on Monday. And so if you have entered the wait list for any programs, know that I will be getting back to you then. And that is not what today's episode is about, but I just wanted to put that out there. I will be more accessible and much more consistent, I would say, probably starting on Monday, the 19th of May, just because that's when I'm trying to get back in the flow of work. And in full transparency, that seems I wouldn't even say intimidating, because I feel like we have rhythms down kind of, but just, I don't know. I was telling my mom, like, the people that would complain about going back to work after 10 weeks after having their baby, I'd be like, oh, come on, like it's work. We all should love what we're doing. And why are you dreading it? You had 10 weeks at such a long time. And then when you're in it, you're like, oh, this is why they were dreading going back. Not even dreading, but just like kind of dragging their feet, getting back into work, just because it is so special to be at home and spend all day with Oliver. And my husband also has time off right now. So it will be hard, but we'll get through it. I told Nathan, I'm like, just expect me to be a little emotional maybe on Sunday night, but it really will be good to get back into more of a routine and, of course, adjust my business to meet my life right now. And that's just the blessing of having a business. And if you're interested in looking at words are really hard. Looking any more into that, you can, of course, check out the description of today's episode. There's also my contact information down there if you just need somebody to talk to or have questions. I, of course, want to be there to support you and hopefully can do more of that now that I'm entering back into, like I said, the work setting and those work rhythms. All right, so catching up with today's episode and just catching you up on what's been happening in my life recently. Like I said, this Sunday was Mother's Day, so it was actually really special. Oliver got dedicated on Sunday at our church. So dedicated is just really gives the church the opportunity to show their support in raising your child and raising them in a really faith-based community, and also has us as parents share that we will and we want to raise them in a Christian household. So he got dedicated for our church. That is what you do as an infant. And then as you get older, typically in high school, is then when you get baptized. So I know that's kind of different than other churches, but they do dedication first. So we had that, and that was really special. And then After church, we went to my parents' house and just had like coffees. I made them the bananas Foster syrup that I'd been making, and that recipe I have not yet posted. I've been doing a coffee shop series on Instagram and actually sold syrups just to like local people around me, and I sold 44 jars of syrup, and I could, maximum was 40, so I like have to get some different jars and all of that. But I was so shocked. It's really just something I'm doing for fun, but I made them not one of the syrups that's actually for sale. I just made them one that I'd been working on kind of developing a recipe for. And it was so good. I'm like, not to toot my own horn, but I think I outdid myself with this one. I know the banana bread syrup has been going around all over TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but somebody told me that it was. And so I did a bananas Foster, which is very similar, I'm sure, in flavor, but it was so, so good. So I made us all bananas Foster lattes, except for Nathan. He always does maple syrup. And then we just had like a light lunch and hung out, and then really just spent the rest of Sunday at home with my family of 4 now, including our dog Luna. So it was nice just to not do much. Like I think I mentioned last week, for Mother's Day and as my push present, Nathan got me the Venue 3 Garmin watch. And just to give you a little update, I really actually love it. It does still notify you like time to move, which is what I didn't love about the Apple Watch, but I'm pretty sure you can shut that off. And it really has not been annoying in a sense. I also only get text messages, and then maybe Venmo, I think, is one that had gone through. But it's really nice just to not have notifications on your watch. You can't text on this watch, at least not that I've discovered. You can't be on phone calls on this watch. So it makes me feel like I don't have to always be plugged into some sort of technology. And when I work out, it tracks my workout, tracks runs, walks, and everything, tracks steps, which is really what I wanted it for. I don't wear it to sleep. I know it has a lot of features in that aspect. I don't want anything on my wrist while I'm sleeping, especially like electromagnetic frequencies. I don't need that. So I keep it charged across the room, but I have really enjoyed it, and I don't wear it on the weekends. I mentioned that in the episode that I recorded, that 2-part series on fat loss, is I don't track anything on the weekends. And honestly, I've gotten away from tracking because I just feel comfortable with what I'm eating, and I'm just really trying to be more intuitive. Now that I know how much protein I really need and what I can do throughout the day to make sure I at least hit that, I feel like I have a pretty good understanding. I don't track on the weekends, but I also don't wear my watch on the weekends. I really just try to, I won't say unplug, because I'm definitely not always the best about still using my phone, being on social media and things like that. But I really try not to have anything really notifying me on the weekends. So wearing my watch or having to track anything in an app is just not happening. So that has been something that I would honestly encourage you, if you feel like you just need a break, is to really use your weekends to disconnect from things that are added to your phone, right? So like we have our phones that we probably have on us most of the time, but maybe your Apple Watch, you take that off, or your Oura Ring, you take that off. Just do things that don't bring extra noise into your life. I think that is really much more refreshing for me, at least, and what I try to do in that aspect. Outside of that, not a lot of updates other than, like I said, I'm selling my coffee syrup. So when you're listening, it's Wednesday. I'll be prepping them all, and then people will come pick them up on Thursday, and then I'm doing delivery on Friday. So kind of a busy end to the week. I also have some work things I need to do before I jump into work on Monday, just to make sure I'm prepared and can be prepared for the calls that I have scheduled that day. So really just enjoying this last week at home, and I'll still be at home in a sense, but it'll just be a little bit different. I prayed on Sunday. I'm like, Lord, please help this week to go so slow. And I say that not with dread of wanting to get back into work. It's just, I want this week to be very meaningful, I want the pace of this week just to be slow, like I said. So moving into the segment that I do on each podcast episode of how I'm nourishing my mind, body, and spirit, with the belief that you really want to have a balance and just a focus on all three in order to live a truly nourished life. So how I'm nourishing my mind is connecting with other people. I actually went on a walk this last week with my friend Kate, and it was just so nice. We went on a walk in town. We went 3 miles and just talked the whole time. It's always so good to, I don't know, I just think moving your body with people is so beneficial. Of course, like sitting down and having coffee with people is great. But there's something about moving your body. I feel like the conversations that I have with people on walks are truly just the best, and they just fulfill me in a different way. So that was a really, really good way to start the week, which is what I did on Monday. How I'm nourishing my body, like I said, doing lots of walks. It's something that I do probably every morning and every evening. The reason that this podcast episode will probably be shorter than most. The reason being is we got to get outside for an evening walk. And I've mentioned this over on Instagram. I've been really not great about being, working ahead when it comes to recording the podcast. I feel like I have to be inspired in order to sit down and talk and to come up with ideas for the week. And so it always seems to fall on like a Tuesday afternoon or Tuesday evening, and we got to get outside for a walk. Oliver is counting on it, I'm sure. Nathan's counting on it. Luna for sure is. So walking has just been very, it's been just kind of a go-to in this last 10 weeks postpartum for sure, is making sure I'm getting outside, getting fresh air, moving my body in a gentle way, and that for sure has been the walking. And then how I'm nourishing my spirit was really the dedication of Oliver. There was a piece when, as parents, we're supposed to respond, and it talks something along the lines of, you'll support your child even if it means for them going to the ends of the earth, really to share about God. And I told Nathan that is a hard phrase to say yes to, right? Because we so selfishly just want our children. I think for me, I want him just to stay close all the time, and I want nothing to ever hurt him or harm him, either emotionally or physically. So it's just like, okay, yeah, like we have to support whatever his mission is. And I think that was just very eye-opening to like listen to those words and really hear that and be like, okay, yeah, like that is our role of parents, is to support him in whatever, like the ends of the earth that he might have to go to share the love of Jesus. So that was really, definitely a highlight. And it's just really cool with our church. They do faith journals. And so when you get dedicated, then they like create a faith journal for you until you graduate high school. It's basically like a scrapbook of every project or some projects you've done throughout your time in the church. And then once you graduate high school, you get your faith journal. So I got mine because we go to the church that I went to growing up. And so it's just really cool because this is the start of his faith journal, and we'll just see how he evolves as a person. It's something too. I feel like I know his personality already, even though he can't talk, and I don't know how to explain it. And I feel like by looking at him too, he like just looks like a little man, which is what I think little boys look like. They just look like little men. And I'm like, I just feel like I know what he looks like, and I know his personality somehow, even though, like I said, he's not talking, he's not even walking or crawling. So it's just really interesting how you feel like such a connection with your child, even though they're not really, they're giving you things in return, right? Like his little smiles and smirks, like that's so fulfilling. But in a sense, it's a lot of taking care of someone else. And that's really where I wanted today's episode to kind of get into, is just sacrificial love. It's something that I've not always been the best at, and I will say I'm not the best at now. And I've been a mother for like a blink of time, so I'm not really here to talk even as a mother's perspective, although I will kind of touch on that. I just really think that sacrifice is something we have to have in all of our relationships. So whether you're a mom or you're a girlfriend or you're, whatever you are, even just a friend, I'm going to touch on friendships as well. That sacrificial love it's hard. And I think it's hard in different seasons of life. I know when I was in college, that was a very selfish stage of my life. I remember coming home and like I cared about my family, but I didn't probably show it very well because I was so absorbed in myself, truly just myself. And I think too, when I really struggled, when we freshly got married, I was struggling so much with like body image and just over exercise and under eating. And really my body was like my primary focus. It was something I was like always obsessive over, even like if it was subconsciously. It was always, we're going out to a restaurant, but we have to go somewhere that I want to eat, that has things on the menu that I can eat. And And it's just that selfishness that I think I really developed in that season. Even though I was freshly married, I should have been much more selfless. I definitely don't think I was. Something that my husband has always been really good at and really been is just sacrificial. I would say that all the time. I was telling him too how interesting it is because I feel like in our entire relationship, he's always been very sacrificial and shown a sacrificial type of love towards me. And I probably did not reciprocate that the best that I could have. I know I didn't, and I still don't, but now it feels like that's what I'm doing for Oliver. And it's just really interesting to kind of be like thrown into a season of life where you have to be, right? Like you have to sacrifice things in order to take care of someone that you love so, so much. And it's hard. And truthfully, I think, like I had mentioned in the beginning of our marriage, I was so focused on me and my physical body that I just hated so much that I couldn't really think of anything outside of that. I think that then kind of morphed into then focusing so much on growing a business and working more. And I think that's really hard when your job is rooted in sacrifice, right? Like if you work in the medical field or if you're a teacher or really any profession, I feel like there is a level of sacrifice emotionally that you have to give to your coworkers, your fellow employees, I don't know, there's just so many people at work and in that environment. But then I felt like when I was actually at home with my family, it was hard to be very, very present. And I think your time is definitely a testament of sacrifice, right? Like you sacrifice your time for people that you love. And I've noticed like I would give my time to people, but I wasn't really present. And so it didn't really feel like a sacrifice because probably at the root of it, I was still thinking about the Instagram post that I was going to make for the next day, or, oh, there is an issue with a client and this is how we can work to resolve that. And it was just always like in my mind. And I feel like up until I had Oliver, that is where my mind was at almost all the time. Like I was always thinking about work. That was all I cared about, always thinking about making money, growing my business, serving more people, morphing into different boxes so that I could serve more people. And now I feel like, honestly, a very, very different person, just internally, even if it's maybe not noticeable, like to just everyone. I feel so much more at ease with not feeling like I have to, I don't know, make so much money, always be focusing on work, always be working. Like when I enter back into work, it's going to be 3 days a week. And that's at first was really, really scary for me. I'm like, how in the world am I going to fit everything into 3 days of the week? And I'm going to figure it out. But like it is not my number one priority to only focus on my business now in this season of life. In this season of life, I want to focus much more on my family and taking care of my family. And then being able to support other people is what comes after that, right? And for so long, way too long, it's been the absolute opposite of that. And I think we might honestly all kind of find ourselves there. At least, I guess I shouldn't speak for you, but I think there are just seasons of your life where you're so focused on yourself, or you're so focused on building something, or then you are so focused on your family. And it changes as it needs to. And it's one that I think would, if you'd have asked me like 10 weeks ago how I would feel about working 3 days a week, I would have been like, I don't know how it's going to happen. It probably won't. I'm probably going to work way more. And now I'm like, no, like that is the max of what I can work. And these are the types of people I serve. And that is where my energy, again, first and foremost, will be on my family, and then it'll be on you as a client, right? So I don't know. I just think that transition is very healthy for me to, again, sacrifice more of my time with my family. And it is a sacrifice, but it's something that I want to do. And I think oftentimes when we're sacrificing something, it is because we want to do something. And so even when I was thinking about ways that I maybe have that sacrificial type of love, or, again, I said like your time is a sacrifice. I think especially having a child, I think about the every 2 hours that I feed him, and then waking up in the middle of the night to feed him, and then holding him all the time because he's a Velcro baby. I think it's hard to sacrifice, or it has not felt hard for me to do that. I thought it would feel a lot harder for me to have that type of sacrifice, and to sacrifice my time in that way. But I had my aunt actually, she had sent me a post over on Instagram, and it was like, I think clingy babies were given to moms who like to be busy to teach them how to slow down. And that is 112% exactly what's happened to me, is he has shown me how to slow down. And it's just so peaceful, honestly, looking at him and thinking like how regulated his nervous system is, because he's not on technology, he's not watching TV, he gets fresh air. He gets to just sit. He could sit in his crib and look at the ceiling for a long time, probably much longer than I could. And he just is at peace. And I think that has taught me to slow down, and it has allowed me to view sacrificing my time as something I want to do. And it's been really sweet to see that happen. In other ways too, like you sacrifice your money, especially when you have kids, right? Like there's expenses, or for me, I've not had any income in the last 10 weeks. So that's like tricky to navigate too. Or you also sacrifice your energy. So waking up in the middle of the night, or going on walks to get him to fall asleep, or always having him on me. Like there's a level of energy that you have to stay awake so you don't fall asleep while he's in your arms. Like it's been very eye-opening. And I guess my reason for wanting to just share my own experience in that is because I had really no idea until I stepped into this role. Like I see my mom, and she still is so sacrificial. My grandmas are sacrificial, like of their time and their energy and their money, and you don't get it until you're in it, probably, in that sense, right? Like you get it maybe as a spouse or as a partner of somebody, but I think it's been good for me to have to and be forced into it almost in this season, and to then see how much moms do. I was telling my mom, I'm like, moms really should get rewards, for like even like breastfeeding your child for a year, which this is just an example. Like you should be getting a reward. Like why is that not like celebrated so much, like with the people around you? Like that should be very, very highly celebrated. And my mom's like, well, do you want to celebrate me? I'm like, well, we should. Like it's all those little things that you realize your mom was doing growing up without you even being aware of it. And now I can see the areas that my mom did that for me, and it's just very eye-opening. But I also wanted to then address like how you can step into or step out of selfishness and into selflessness. And maybe you don't struggle with this, and that is amazing. I think, again, I'm speaking from personal experience. Until I had a kid, I would say I was very selfish. But ways that I've really have discovered too, even just with my friendships and the relationships around me, is showing interest in others and what they're doing is a great way for people to feel cared about around you, even if you're in different seasons of life. And I even wrote that down. I'm like, you might not be in the same season of life as the people around you, but you can connect on the things you have in common and support them in their differences. And that is what I've noticed be the thread in every relationship that I still have maintained with friends, even from high school or college, is that even if we weren't in the stage of life, there was still interest, there was still support, there still is support in what each other are doing, even though our lives do not look the exact same. And I think that's actually really fun. Like I have some friends that are still single. I have friends that are freshly married or freshly getting married, and friends that have kids. And it's just really fun because in each relationship, there's something different that we're bringing to the table for each other. And not that it always has to be mutually beneficial, but I know the moments that I have shown interest in other people, even if they were still in college and I was married, right? Like that relationship stayed strong because I still deeply cared about their life, even though our lives did not look anything the same. Another way too that I think you can be selfless is taking care of people when you notice that they need help. And that might sound very simple, but even, with people bringing us meals, or there was one day, and my mom has always been really, really good about this, and I shared this on the podcast too. There was one Friday I was just going through it, and it's really only happened one day since I've had Oliver where I was like, why does this feel so hard? The whole day felt so hard. I was emotional, and my mom took him for 3 hours, and she didn't push it. She was like, I'm like, maybe you can take him. And she's like, if you want me to, I would be more than happy to take him and spend time with him. And she just took him for 3 hours, and I could take a shower. I went for a walk. I spent time with Nathan. And that was what I needed, even though she maybe didn't, I don't know. She didn't notice directly, and she probably noticed a little bit because she had stopped over that day. Maybe didn't notice directly. She was still willing to help me even in a season of life where like I wanted to be able to do everything myself and I was so confused on why it felt so hard. She was still there to help me when I needed help. And that comes with also asking for help. I think as friends, that is really the purpose of friendship, right? Is to have somebody that can help you. But I know asking for help can be really challenging. Again, like I've found many moments where no, like I want to do it myself. I want to be able to figure it out myself. And there's kind of some reflection that I've also done recently, and kind of as I was brainstorming this episode of when we lived in Omaha, which is a city that's about an hour and 45 minutes from where my family is and from where we live right now. But it was about, 8 months where I really felt like I was going through it. I honestly felt like I isolated because I wanted to feel sad for myself. I felt sad for myself that all my friends were still in college and I wasn't, and I felt like relationships weren't as strong with my friends, and I was living in a different city than some of my friends, and I didn't have a job that I really liked, and I didn't have a job, period. And then, like those waves that you go through, and I didn't ask for help. I didn't ask for anyone to, maybe support me in that when it came to friendships. And reflecting back, I have a friend that lives in Omaha, and she's like, I didn't know like it was so hard for you. I wish you would have like said something. I would have helped you. And it was just me, in a season where I didn't want to ask for help. And if I would have asked for help, I think my experience would have been so much different, and I wouldn't have written off living in a city or living downtown in a big city as something that was just so miserable. Because reflecting back, like there was a lot of things that I loved about living there, but most of the time I was a very sad, unhappy person. And I really should have just reached out to the people that wanted to help me. And as a friend, like we should want to help our friends. And so that's just where that selflessness comes in. And honestly, like that sacrifice of your time and energy, maybe even your resources financially, or the food you have in your house, to take care of somebody close to you and to desire to take care of them. And so I know like the asking for help piece can be really hard, but as I think back, there's a lot of moments in time where I really wish I would have asked for help, and also maybe been more observant in when my friends needed help and helping them. So I think it's just something that, and I share often, like if you need something, like reach out to me. And I really do mean that, even though maybe you and I don't know each other personally. If you're listening to the podcast and you see all these glimmers or moments in my life, probably through just what I share, please know like you can reach out to me as well. And I want to be able to help and support really as many people as I can, and obviously that I have the capacity for to support, just because sometimes you can feel like, well, I have a lot of close friends, but maybe I'm like embarrassed or I feel self-conscious about telling them about something, and it feels better to have an objective person to just like that's outside of your circle that can give some input or just support. That is really where I think people gravitate towards coaching and working one-on-one with someone, or going to therapy, or just meeting people like online, is because you have somebody that's not maybe in your inner circle that you can talk to about things that you're struggling with, until you then feel comfortable to talk to the people that are closest to you, which I really think should ultimately be the goal. But yeah, like I just really wish I would have been better at that post-college graduation. And when I was getting married, I just did not want to lean on people around me outside of my husband, and I probably leaned on him too much. And I don't really know if you can. I think you kind of can, even with your spouse. But he was just the person that saw every phase of, that phase of me throughout that year, and did his best to support me. But I know that also can be really draining if you're always the single person supporting someone. It can be really energy draining. You might feel like you're putting a lot of time into a relationship in a certain season. And that's just something to remind you of too, is it is always a season, right? Like even if you are fresh into motherhood, this is just a season. And, waking up and getting, 2-hour sprints of sleep every night for a month and a half, like that is a season of life. Sleep will improve, their sleep will improve, or their feeding window, right? It won't always be every 2 hours. Once they're able to eat, regular food, it'll be okay, maybe like more supplemental. And so I think that's just where I have to remind myself sometimes too, is everything that I'm doing right now is really a season, and viewing life as seasons of life, and maybe different friendships you have in each season that need more attention, or people in your life that need more attention. It is, like I said, a season. It is a moment in time, and things will change and shift. And then maybe you'll be in a season where you can lean more on them, and then they're that support for you. But really, friendship is built on connection, which is also why you need to be willing to be deeply open with the people around you. And this doesn't mean you have to share everything that's always on your heart with the people around you. But I've noticed, even through what I do with work, the more I share, the deeper the connections are with the people around me, right? Vulnerability creates connection. It just does. So when you feel safe enough and comfortable enough in a relationship and in a friendship, you are able to deeply connect with other people. And really, I think sometimes too, that's why our circle can feel really small, is because I know for me, there's not a ton of people that I want to be very, very open with. And even having a podcast, like, I'm probably much more open than even other people would be about what's happening in my life and my thoughts and my feelings and all the things. But I've seen through having just a podcast with not even a bazillion listeners, like, you just create connections with people that listen, or people stop you and they're like, hey, I listened to your podcast episode and it was super interesting to hear about your birth story, and you were so open about the whole experience, but also made me feel really confident about now being pregnant and going through the labor process and laboring process. I don't know. Sometimes I just do not pronounce things right. And if you've been listening for a while, you probably know that. And thank you so much for having grace with me, because it's just how I talk. But yeah, like even like my prenatal, not my prenatal, my, what am I trying to say? My pregnancy and my delivery story, that episode, whatever. I'll have a link in the description if you want to listen. But that had so many people that reached out and they're like, you made me feel so much more confident going into having a baby, just hearing you talk about it. And that's really why I think it's important that we're vulnerable and that we share things that maybe are a little uncomfortable, because it creates connection with the people around us. And when it comes to my personal friendships, I really do try to be vulnerable with the people around me. And I just know the relationships that I've had for the longest are the ones where we've been honest with each other and we've leaned on each other in different seasons. And I don't think that also means that you always have to be super, super close to someone in every season. I definitely have friendships that have like had their ebbs and flows, but the consistency of those friendships is still to this day so comforting. To even go somewhere and see their face, like, I feel at ease. And that's just really what I hope to be to the people around me too, is just somebody that makes you feel comfortable and at ease and is consistent. Even if, like I said, you're not always super, super close, you're still able to support each other and lean on each other when you need to. And I also think another piece of that too is just not having to shift and morph into something else to be friends with someone. When you want to be the most sacrificial of your time, energy, resources, it's when you can feel like yourself and you can serve them and take care of them and do it just being 100% how you actually are. Not having to change how you talk or anything like that. You can be bubbly, you can be outgoing, and also, be a listening ear in a way that makes you feel comfortable, because I think that's when we can best take care of other people too, is when we know that at this stage of life, like, I'm going to really take care of you, and I know one day you'll really take care of me. But again, you shouldn't have to shift and morph into something else to be friends with someone. I wrote this out because I'm going to reread it, but it says, the ones who make conversations feel comfortable are the ones that you want to make sacrifices for. And I really think that is how it is. Also remembering you don't have to have so many friends. You don't have to have a huge family. Really, when you have just a few people that you are willing to show sacrificial love towards, I think that is the most impactful and the most meaningful. And those people might change throughout the span of your life, but storing up enough energy that you feel capable of doing that, I think, is just another component that I want to kind of wrap this up talking about, because like I had said in the beginning of the episode, when I was really trying to grow a business and get clients and meet with clients, right? That was a lot of me. And at the end of the day, I noticed my energy was at E. Like I would not have had, if I had a kid at that moment in time, like it wouldn't have been good, because I feel like I was really even struggling just to have energy to spend time with Nathan that wasn't sitting watching TV, right? And so you also have to have the energy. So thinking about things then that fill your cup, because we can't pour from an empty cup. So even if you want to show sacrificial love, but you are go all the time, me, and that's okay, right? It's okay to have selfish seasons of life. But if that is you right now and you don't want it to be, you have to think about the things around you that are energy takers and then what are energy givers. And really getting critical around like what people, what activities, what things around you are draining your energy. How can you maybe do less of that and then add in things that really replenish your energy? So like for me, even day to day, this is so basic, but for me, every morning when I wake up, typically I'll, brush my teeth, do all the things, make breakfast, eat a protein-rich breakfast. By then, maybe Oliver's waking up. Nathan and I have probably been already up for like at least a half hour. And then about mid-morning, I make Nathan and I a latte. And like that gives me so much energy. That is really where I think like just, I don't know, my passion for coffee comes from not even the coffee itself, although that's very special, but it's the action of like making something for someone else and making something very special for someone else, like a specialty latte, a specialty drink. Like that is how I show love. Even if like you're somebody that's ever come over to my house, I've probably have offered you a latte at least once or offered to bring you one, because that is really how I feel like I show love, is like making things for other people to enjoy. Anyway, that is the glimmer in my day. That mid-morning coffee, I'm not saying it gets me out of bed, because there are so many other things that get me out of bed, but it makes me so excited for the day ahead when I know that Nathan and I can enjoy our lattes together, and I can do that, and I can serve him in that way, I guess, in a sense. And again, that is something that gives me energy. It wouldn't give me energy if I was wired on coffee all day long, because it's no longer special, right? Like it's not special to have one coffee mid-morning if I was just making my drip coffee and just having my own cup of coffee all day long until, evening, right? And I know some people that do that, and that's your thing, right? But I think it's just much more special for me to really put a lot of care and intention into that one moment. It gives me and kind of fulfills me for the day ahead. And so that's just like, again, like I said, kind of a silly example, but an example that I think of that is consistently something that fills my cup is doing that, but it is also a way of serving someone. And so thinking about, like I said, when you look at your day, how much of your day is stripping away your energy? And then do you have energy to take care of the people around you, to take care of yourself? Because I think that's when we notice, okay, something's got to change. Something has to shift. If our whole day is surrounded around other people and there's not moments that we get something for ourselves, like for me, that's going and exercising. That is my 45 to an hour and a half of my day to take care of myself. And that's truthfully something I had told Nathan too when we talked about having kids, is I'm like, having time to exercise every day, with the exception of like a rest day, that is very, very important to me, and I need that time. And that's something that Nathan and I have noticed too, even though we're both at home and maybe it can look like we're really not, quote, doing anything. Taking care of a child is still energy, right? And we're both giving up things that we maybe would do if we didn't have a kid to take care of him, and we want to. But I have told Nathan, and we've kind of talked about it, is you have to have at least 45 minutes a day doing something for yourself. I'm like, get out of the house. I don't care if it's going and sitting outside on the front porch for 45 minutes. Like, get away. I'll take care of him. And then when I go and work out, like, that is your time to be with him. And I can take that 45 minutes to take care of myself. And I really think that that is just something that, I don't know. I was talking to my friend Lyndon about this too before I actually even gave birth, of like, I really want to pour into my health and take care of myself in that first month postpartum. And I'm like, I know that might sound selfish. And she's like, that's not selfish. Like, I think as a society, we've convinced moms that having even 45 minutes to yourself a day is selfish, and it's not. Like, that is what you need to do to pour into other people. If that's what you have to do, like, take that 45 minutes, pour into yourself, and I promise you'll probably show up so much better for the people around you because you do that. So that's just kind of like my way of wrapping this up. And again, that doesn't just apply to moms, it applies to wives, to husbands, to even friendships. If you have roommates, right, and you're like getting super agitated with your roommates, take 45 minutes away from them a day. Not counting going to class or going to work, but truly 45 minutes at your time at home with them. Take it away by yourself. Go do something. And then when you come back, I can guarantee your mood and your attitude is just going to be a lot better. It's kind of like that big, deep breath that we probably all need. So that is really all that I have for today's episode. If you're interested in following along with my life outside of the podcast, you can find me at Nourish with Bailey on Instagram. Again, like I said, my email is in the description. Reach out through email or Instagram if you need to connect to somebody, to talk to somebody, or I can get you connected with other people. I really have found that I love doing that and being a connector for other people. So let's go ahead and close today's episode in prayer. So dear Lord, just thank you for today. Thank you for the warm weather you sent our way and just like the change in seasons and the new life that is around us. I pray that whoever is listening to today's episode, that they're able to really have and show that sacrificial type of love to the people around them, and also find that time this week to pour into themselves each day in a way that just honors their body, mind, and spirit. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. All right, so with that, I'll talk to you again next Wednesday. Bye.